Finance Minister Ishaq Dar's speech, and he gave like 7 points uh, in his budget. The highlights of the points were he focused on agriculture, and he said that it's basically to achieve food security. Then he talked about IT sector and announced certain steps to boost IT exports. Then he talked about SMEs. He also talked about industry and export sector. Then he also announced certain incentives to boost remittances, and these incentives were for supposedly overseas Pakistanis. He also, announced certain measures for education, women and youth. He gave some, a list of steps to boost construction. Then he also announced he jacked up the allocation for BISP, and then he also announced revision in salaries for government employees. Basically, these were the 11 points that he kind of elaborated on during his speech. I am not kind of quoting numbers, but these were primarily the main areas that he kind of touched on during his speech. I think it's a kind of a weak balancing attempt to provide relief to people who are in stress because of, stagflation, that is almost stagnant growth and very high inflation. And it also kind of tried to provide certain, incentives to energize the agents of. But I think it's a very weak attempt. Whatever he provided, he kind of announced salary revisions are basically for the government employees. Government employees are hardly 2%, less than 2% of the total population. So its scope is very, very limited. And the rest of the people, most working people in the middle class, is in stress. And one was expecting that maybe he'll announce some kind of, revision in the threshold for income tax. That would have left more. If he would have increased the threshold of income tax, it would have provided relief to all income taxpayers, middle income, income taxpayers. But he didn't do that. So I think, whatever relief has been announced is not really kind of, address the issues that normal Pakistanis are facing at this point in time. One thing that he kind of, at the start of his speech, where he was kind of, giving details of why the economy didn't perform, lagged, or it's basically tanked. And one point that he made was the political uncertainty. I was hoping that before announcing the election, maybe the government will address this issue. They could have addressed this issue by at least announcing the date for dissolution of the Senate. That would have given market some idea of where the things are heading. But, government didn't do that. So at this point in time, and, a lot, and before Finance Minister, Prime Minister gave a speech in the cabinet that was kind of, in which he said that he's been given assurance by the IMF MD, verbal assurance that, Pakistan, they will conclude the 9th review, and hopefully Pakistan will get the tranche. But in case that doesn't materialize, in the budget there's nothing how the government intends to deal with in case IMF, is not on board. Pakistan's economy is in a mess. There's a lot that needs to be done, and it's not, people have been talking about it. People, I don't think that government doesn't know what needs to be done. It's only that it doesn't want to do it at this point. It was extremely important to reduce the size of the parallel economy, which is basically not contributing anything in taxes. So there's nothing being done in that area. Then there's it's very important that we address the anomalies in the tax structure, which is currently kind of whatever is being mobilized is mobilized through indirect tax, and the burden of indirect taxes are ultimately borne by the people. So they could have changed. They should have changed this. They should have at least attempted to change the structure. That they didn't. Then there's as long the pie doesn't expand, as long the economy doesn't expand, no one is going to, obviously redistribution doesn't make any sense. So we need to grow the economy, and for the economy to grow, it's extremely important to increase the level of saving and increase investment in the economy. So there's not been enough trust towards that, which is, I think, extremely important that they should have done. Then there's a huge issue of these leading SOE, state-owned enterprises. I don't know how and why, how can they not address that issue? But they didn't. They opted not to. It's an election year. They probably wanted to appease everybody, but in the end, I don't think it's going to deliver what they claim that they want to deliver, which is, on the one hand, they want to provide relief to the people and growth to the economy. I don't think that either of the two, besides, whatever measures they have announced, they have not clearly, showed how are they going to finance the measures that they have announced. So it's not kind of trust inspiring, whatever measures they've announced. I think they could have done better.